Okay, it looks like we are recording, and today I have with me Frederico, who is also known as Knitted by Macho Men. I found Frederico, I love to roll my R's like that, on Instagram. He has some really beautiful work there, and his Instagram handle is also Knitted by Macho Men. He also has a website where you can see his beautiful work, which, not surprisingly, is knittedbymachomen.com. So, Frederico, tell me about yourself. Tell me who you are.
Okay, so my name is Frederico Edvardsen Cardoso. I'm half Norwegian, half Portuguese. I just made 46 years old last Friday,
Well, happy
and
birthday.
thank you so much. And I start knitting in a very late age, I think. It was about 39. And why did I start doing that?
We're
Well,
all still 39.
okay. No worries. So I decided to do that because in a way, I don't know. In my life, I had a lot of things that combined went me into a certain place, into a certain time in my life that actually knitting start to have a proper meaning. And why do I say that? Because I used to be a scout where I learned the knots. I was a sailor. I used to sail a laser dinghy boat where for 10 years I was in the Sailing Portuguese Federation and I sailed there for 10 years and I also made some knots there. And then afterwards, when I got married and I had my 4 kids, I decided to make some bennies. But it was so difficult at the time because uh, I was already asking my aunts in Norway to make some traditional Norwegian sweaters. It's called the Mariusgenser. I don't know if you heard about them. It's quite famous in Norway, and it's big history. I can tell you afterwards about it. But actually, I was like thinking, why cannot I do those things by myself? And then once here in Portugal, in a beach where I was going surfing, I actually saw a German man with big Rastafari hair, and he actually was knitting in his wagon with a big wood needles, and I was quite surprised what he was doing. So I went back home. I thought, well, it's going to be winter the next season, and we're going to travel and do some skis in France. Why won't I make the bennies for my kids? But actually, it was quite surprising because it took a lot of time for me to reach the most simple way of start knitting. So it was a big journey for like 2 years, I think, where actually I start to make my own scarf. So forget the Benny, all right? So after that, when I finally made my first scarf by myself, I start seeing that there was something called Ravelry, like Facebook for knitters and crocheters. And I
Mm-hmm.
was quite amazed. And then suddenly I realized that there was a lot of Portuguese and Norwegian tradition with knitting. And actually, men were the first ones to start knitting. They made knitting, for example, the first socks, probably you know that, but that we can see it's made by Egyptians, and it's more than 2000 years, and it was made by men who actually knew how also to write.
I actually did not know that. That's
Yeah,
fascinating.
it is. And even in the Middle Age, while we can have some um, pieces that actually could find in some churches where kings would lie down there with some swords and things like that. They also had these kind of metal shirts that they were made also by men. So I
Hand
was
mail.
exactly made by male, and it was something that you also had to like learn for about 6 to 8 years, like if it was a high university course. And then you have a special exam at the end that you actually, if you failed, you had to make more 2 years. So it was really impressive to see all this kind of information that was about male knitting, and I didn't realize that. So, in a way, I thought it was something simple, but it was a huge things that was happening, and besides knitting, there was so many different techniques, and I was quite surprised what I could actually do with it. So at the moment I made my Knitted by Macho Men page, when it was like almost 2 months after I start knitting, just because here in the south of Europe, it's something that they think it's just for women, and actually it's not true, because men in Europe used to, beside of smoking their cigars after meals, they also knit until the Second World War. And they also had some information about that when actually people made some propaganda and took some photos showing that men, high society, actually had their cigars and at the same time were knitting for the soldiers who were in the front line during the winter and didn't have clothes. So you also can see even Franklin Roosevelt and Prince Edward of England during that time doing knitting, you making some propaganda for people to make the clothes for the troops.
Hmm.
So it is amazing. It's huge information about all this process. And I went to some different groups here in Portugal and internationally, finding other groups of knitting, and then also find that crochet was also something very nice to do, and it was a different technique. So I decided also to find people who actually could teach me how to crochet too. So wow, it's an amazing, a really huge journey. And when I
Sounds like
had
a fascinating journey. I would
it's
love
yeah,
to learn more about the history that you're talking about. I only knew a little bit about these things, these references you're making, but I want to know an awful lot more. And I have friends in my own yarning community who are very much into history as well as the crafts that they do, who would really love to know that sort of thing. Do you have links to that on your website? Sources to learn about that kind of uh, um, historical information?
it's true. Most of the information I got actually was from American sites or US sites, and because they have a lot of how do you say, catalogs, photos, especially from the Second World War, and that actually the First World War too. That actually helped me a lot to see and to understand these images, and to tell to myself that there's no, you don't have to worry about knitting in public, for example, because it was something that used to be before. And that's why I created my page. That's the first reason. That's why even people ask me to change the name, because when you say Macho Man, could be something that it could be offensive. Like here in Portugal, macho means a man that actually could be violent at home, say rude words, just want to drink, don't have a job, don't go along with their family. So it was a way, in ironically, trying to make that even a very rude person can make such a soft and tender thing that is knitting. That's why I created my page. And I joked about it, and people start looking and actually find it was funny. And then even my nickname turned to be the Macho Man of yarn here in Portugal. You know, old ladies tell me
I
that.
think that's cute. Do you know, I had a friend who was an art therapist, and she used crafts in teaching young people who were like at risk of like becoming delinquents, law breakers, that sort of thing. And she said that some of the toughest young, like early teenage boys, would be the most proud of the crochet hats that they would make. It was amazing to see the transformation in them.
It's true. It's true. It's really true. So, just to answer your question, it really happened when actually I want to make some bennies, and I start to see that there's so many information, and then I start to make my page on Facebook. And suddenly I had like lots of people, especially from broadcasting Portuguese network, and I went to different TV programs and lots of magazines, and from Brazil to Norway, and they thought it was funny to see a man who actually had four kids, one fish called Carlos, and and decided to make knitting, as something that's supposed to be real. Like even one of my activities, exercise activities, I actually do like boxing and kickboxing. And it's something could be very violent, but at the same time, how can a person makes kickboxing can do knitting at the same time? So it's really funny. It's really funny, and it's it's hilarious. It's hilarious. But the amazing thing about all this, it's really a journey, and I actually get connected with people. It's amazing when you knit in public how much people are interested in talking to you about it.
Exactly, exactly. My
It's amazing.
ex, yeah, my ex became quite an expert knitter, and when we would go places on like the commuter train, he would pull out his knitting. And more interesting than watching him knit, which was he was really very good at it, was watching other people watch him knit.
Yeah,
It
it's
was amazing. And I would take my own crochet projects. I crochet, he knits, and maybe that's why we broke up. I don't know, but but
no,
uh, I would take crochet projects places, and people would say, "I've never seen a man knitting before," and I'm going, "Well, you still haven't because this is crochet."
It's yeah. And you explain the difference?
Uh,
No.
I
All right. I got it. I got it.
but you did mention that you do crochet, so you've got additional points with me there. So,
No, it's no worry. I just explained that it's just a hook, instead of having two needles, do double point needles, or like it's pointed. The other
mhm,
ones actually just are very, it's a hook. It doesn't actually, I don't have anyone here, but it's a hook that you use, and you use it just one needle instead of two. And
exactly.
but it's something, it's so funny. There's an image like Batman punching Robin. I don't know if you ever seen it, and it's like Robin is asking Batman, "Oh, what are you doing with your crochet?" And then it's punch, it's not crochet, it's knitting, and then he's punching on Robin. Because we are always saying that, it's so obvious for us, but we have
Yeah, exactly. But anything having to do with yarn to so
to,
many people is really foreign,
yeah.
and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. I mean, most of us. Well, I'm older than you, but most of us,
Mm,
you probably did as well. We saw our mothers and our grandmothers knitting and crochet,
it's true.
and some of us learned it at their hands. But and that is part of the reason why people think of it as an old lady type of thing to do.
Yeah.
But also, have you seen this? I've seen it, and other people have mentioned it to me. In the past few years, more and more younger men are becoming public about their yarn craft and doing really great work.
You are absolutely right. And it's been a journey, and I'm involving more and more inside. And it was amazing how things changed in just a couple of years. It was like, if we can make the last 10 years, when I actually started, I probably would count like two or three persons that, or people, or men actually, knitting. And now I know that I can at least 20 here in Portugal for sure. And I'm talking about the most famous ones because there are lots of people actually knitting inside their houses, but they don't show themselves, you know. So, in a way, I probably would be the first one making public, you know, transport inside my car when it stopped,
Mm-hmm.
the parking place, or going to a coffee shop and start knitting. And people start to be intrigued. But nowadays, okay, I also go most of the time to the same places. But it's funny to see that even people that goes along for the first time along those places, actually I eat for most of the time, they recognize it's not something strange that used to be like 5 6 years ago. People were really amazed
Mm-hmm.
by what I was doing. So but at the same time, it's funny. Even they don't think it's strange, they always have something to ask me, like, "What are you doing? Are you doing socks? Oh, so funny. My mother used to do that. Where do you come from? I don't see people doing knitting with your age, for example, or male doing that." So it starts a conversation. So they always ask me something, but it's not in how do you say, like if I was from an alien or from a different planet, you know. It's something that they accepted more than before, and that is awesome. That is really awesome. And I don't know if you also use it as a meditation. For me, actually, I suffer sometimes from anxiety, especially what happened with this whole virus and things like that. I don't know if you
Mm-hmm.
want to talk about that, but actually, really
Exactly.
helped me a lot. Really helped me a lot because, like you know, in the church, and when you're praying or if you're doing a mantra, you're repeating all the time, or even you're singing. Uh,
Exactly.
you're always repeating, and here's the same thing, but it's the same movement. You're always knitting or purling, you know. So it keeps you
And
calm. It's amazing.
and what I've
Do you?
learned about meditation is that that sort of repeated chant, if you will, it's about sort of um, freeing your mind up to see what else comes up. And actually, I was very recently talking with another man for this same interview series. He is a combat veteran. He served in the U.S. Armed Forces in the Middle East, and he picked up crochet as a way to deal with some of his PTSD issues. And now he teaches other veterans crochet as a way for them to deal. And I think that is a perfectly wonderful thing. For me, it has also been wonderful because although that is totally not me, I've had my own issues to deal with, and just having that kind of repetitive thing. It is what you say. It's meditative. It's soothing. It's therapeutic.
It's really impressive, and there's so many ways of expressing yarn. Um, I mean, you crochet. I'm now in socks phase. I'm knitting a lot of socks at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
but I really get impressed with all, so many things. Sometimes you feel like, oh, he's the first male knitting in Portugal, and then comes another male and say, no, 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 I'm the first one. But what happened? It's like there's so much space in different techniques, and you can express your art in so many ways. It's really impressive, and it really happened. Like the after a while, even if they are in a way struggling with who was
Mm-hmm.
who, they suddenly like, oh, I'm doing the Portuguese way of knitting, and then he goes doing that thing, and then suddenly there's another one actually just, oh, I'm just making socks, or for example in my case, oh, he's a Portuguese but he's knitting like a Norwegian, for example, because he's using the
Well,
continental way. Yeah,
you're both. So
it's true, and it's amazing. There's so much space for everyone,
yeah,
and I
and
really get
and
impressed. And I lost my focus. I don't know if it happens with you, David, but with me, I lost my focus in actually what I want to do in the future because it's so
mm,
many different things, and I
that's happened to
really
me many times.
really
Yeah.
impressed. For example, I love London K. With the brand she's got. I don't know if I can say this here in the podcast,
Say
but
whatever you want.
thank you so much. But it's she's had a wonderful way of expressing knitting by doing crochet in a very simple way. She only can use one very simple technique. It's just one stitch, doing the crochet always with one stitch, and she's so creative, and she makes it in a way that actually people on the public, instead of having all these kind of graffitis, you have yarn expressed in what I think it's an awesome way of putting art, and people touching the yarn and feeling it and expressing themselves with something that it was to be or used to be just done inside the houses by our moms and our grandmothers,
Mm-hmm.
and that makes me really intrigued to do the same. But it's amazing.
And it's interesting you mentioned moms and grandmothers. Someone I met when I, pulled out my project I was doing, she said that as she was growing up, she also was from Europe, but this was in New York. She said that she had always watched her grandmother crocheting things and probably knitting as well, and just
Oh,
making things one after another, and she never knew what happened to them. When she got married, she was presented with a huge chest full of all of these treasures that her
wow,
grandmother had made for her.
wow.
I mean, that
That-
sort of thing makes me misty, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. It's really impressive, and I also can say about my experience that one of the lastest things that I got from my Norwegian grandmother was a pair of
Oh,
socks, and that was so impressive to me that actually I could not. Probably it stayed in my unconscious mind, just back there, like if it was a kind of sort of feeling bad about it, like I didn't have time to say bye to my grandmother and thank for the socks, the last socks that she made it for me.
mm-hmm.
So it really had a huge impact on myself. And one other thing that I want to tell you, it's actually I saw a man who was about 80, a post office when I was in a city near the capital of Portugal. It's Lisbon, so it's in Cascais. And then this man was started crying when he was looking at me knitting, waiting for being attended on the post office. And then he
Mm-hmm.
was saying, what you knitting? And I say, sorry, did I made something wrong? Do you want me to stop knitting because you are crying? And the man said, no, 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 just carry on. You just remind me when was the D-Day. I was inside the boat and we were knitting because we are so frightened that one of the bombs will hit the boat, and you just remind me those days. And I was like, wow, there's an English veteran, in Cascais, crying in front of me. He was on D-Day and actually was telling me that he was really so impressed that I was knitting, reminding him on that day because he was frightened of the bombs could hit. So the part of meditation and the headspace, it's really, really true, and this is another experience that I could tell you. And I was like, whoa, see, my, all
I'm
my,
getting misty with
my,
that
my
story.
skin, it's really,
Oh my
it's
God.
so
It's
impressive, how knitting really changed people's lives, and
it's true.
it's
And
amazing. It's amazing.
if you think about it, the yarn craft, the knitting, the crocheting, whatever it is you do with yarn, it does bind all the generations because of all the things that are passed down. Yeah. To those of us who value our family histories, I have a blanket that my grandmother made for me when I went off to college, and I can look at it now and I can see how it was made, and I can recognize that it was made with like really cheap and awful yarn, but at the same time I can also see the love that was in it.
It's true.
And I used to have it on my bed in the dormitory room when I was in college, um, and it did keep me warm.
And
So
it's really,
yeah.
yeah, it's
Mhm.
impressive. It's impressive, it's impressive because you can feel when you start understanding the yarn and the knitting and how they make the pearl, you even can feel the tension, when you feel it's really tight and you can see, the rows are actually really thin. You see that the person probably it's more stressful during those times than if it is more loose, and the row it's bigger.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
it's
I always wondered with any kind of artistic expression, whether it is yarn craft, visual arts, even music composition. I studied music when I was a kid, or when I was in school. So when you put it down and you pick it up again, and you're in a sort of a different mental space, does that affect what you do moving forward with the next bit that you're going to do? And sometimes you can see that, and sometimes you can't. And a really good craftsman would overcome that. But we all have our limitations too.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. We also have our limitations, but it's incredible how, in a way, uh, it's like if your grandmother is still alive in a way that when you have your blanket, you can from the tension or if it's a big or small row, you can like feel the feeling that was given during that time, and it's looked like if it was
Mm-hmm.
alive. I don't know how to express myself better
Yeah.
than this, but it's like a piece of wood that actually you feel it and it stays for, like the case of the Egyptian socks, it can last for more than 2000 years. So it's really amazing how you start reading that. And even in the Second World War, they were like passing information with sweaters. When you have knitting and purling, it's just two knots.
I have heard stories about that, about putting code into knit patterns, and
Exactly.
that's a little bit beyond me.
Y-
Well, I always say that knitting is a mystery to me because I just don't get it. I mean, I
Yeah,
can crochet all day long, and I'm not too bad at it, but knitting is a mystery.
yeah. But it can happen with crochet too. But if you try to understand as knitting, where you have just two different techniques, you have purl and knit, right? And then you have the Morse code when you have like just a small point and then you have a
Oh
stripe.
yeah.
All right. So
Okay,
if
so
you have, yeah. So if you want to write SOS, for example, you just have two strikes and then, well, I mean, three strikes, three points, and then three strikes again. So it's the same
yeah,
like free knitting, free purl, and free knitting or knit again
it's
stitches.
like binary numbers for people
E-
who know computers. It's either a
exactly.
zero or a one.
Exactly.
So
That's the point.
yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah. Oh,
So
that is so cool.
yeah,
Gosh,
sorry.
you're fascinating. I love talking to you. So
No, come
now
on, David.
you said that you started out, you wanted to make things for your kids. Do you do
It's-
it now? Have you made things for them? What are their How old are they now?
yeah, the smallest is 8, then the other boy it's 10, and then I have two girls. They are the oldest ones. The first one has 12, and the oldest one, she's 23. She's making 24 next year. So
Ah.
from the first marriage, yeah, from a Norwegian lady. So because I'm half Portuguese, half Norwegian, first I had to get married with a Norwegian. Now I got married to a Portuguese lady. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, when you
but
give up the ladies, call me. Okay.
all right, I will. I'll be the first one, David. I'll tell you. But anyway, the funniest thing is just it took some time to make the Benny, so I made some scarves from them. And what actually they do is that they have a box where they have their own pieces, and sometimes they grab it and they use it. For example, the youngest one had even a Christmas huge glass, like a reindeer, and then decided to put the Benny and the scarf. And this was just last week, and it was like 27 degrees Celsius here. It was really hot. So whenever they want, that's, I think it's the most important, and it's one of my missions. That's why I don't get so focused in one thing that I really want to do, because there's so many projects. It's starting to be my mind. It's to give contact with children, even if it's Waldorf method at school or whatever, but they have to get contact with yarn. And that was something that, for example, in my generation and even my father's generation, there was something that it could not be touched. It was just my mom's or grandma's stuff that was just next to the sofa, and it was only her who could actually touch it and feel it and use the needles. So the more you have contact with yarn, the more they can express themselves, use all this kind of creativity they have got, and go ahead and do some knitting and leave the cell phones and all these games and electronic devices that's actually creating dependence for them, and going back that we used to do, but in a very innovative and different expressive way. That's
It's great, and it's true. Back in the day, I mean, even when we were kids and before, um, there were very strong gender guidelines, and I think I have actually read this, that as men became more, as they worked more in office jobs in the city rather than on the land and with their hands, they became more concerned about what exactly is a man. If I'm not working with my hands, what makes me a man? So that's when these rules became much more firm, and that happened in, like, well, the Industrial Revolution and afterwards. So a lot in the early 20th century. But nowadays, we're seeing these lines are really stupid.
yeah,
So, um, and people are doing whatever they want to do, and that's just fine, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody.
yeah.
So tell me, do you teach your kids the yarn
When they
crafts?
ask me, yeah, when they ask me, I'll try to teach us. I don't want to oblige them to do these kinds of things. I think they really have to have a motivation.
Mm-hmm.
And what I actually use as a motivation for them to ask me, it's to show my pieces, the things that I actually can do. Sometimes, okay, I have some yarn that are really expensive and I put it in a box, and then they actually can feel it, but they don't. It's like Okay, you can watch it, but see the final results instead of using them. But all these kinds of other type of yarns, a little bit with more acrylic, but much lighter. The colors, it's very important for them. And then they start using and grabbing like a machine for pom poms, and they make their own pom poms. And then suddenly they are asking, "Can I take it to the school?" And then they showing to the other kids, and it's amazing how they express themselves because they have exactly the same bag with the Pokemon face or whatever, and exactly everybody has the same the same the same articles that they buy in the same shops, but then suddenly one has a pom pom. Okay, so that is Kikus, and it makes a huge difference because the pom pom it's really soft, but at the same time, everybody knows that it's his. It's his articles from school and whatever, and that's exactly how they uh, make the difference and how they use the yarn. So yeah, they already asked me. Well, for example, my youngest daughter, she actually just made some bracelets, and then from a moment to another, she was selling in the summer much more than I did, and I was like, "Whoa, how can you do that?" Well, I'm just telling ladies that actually I want to earn extra money for the summer vacations. So it's amazing how suddenly they were making completely different things. What actually it's I really get proud of it because sometimes I think, oh, should I teach them just knitting? No, they can do finger knitting, they can do arm knitting, they can make some pom poms. They just can cut it and put on their, instead of using ink and using pencil, to just glue it on the paper. So I think I actually, instead of teaching them, I start learning from them. So
Well, that's the way it's supposed to work, I think.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
that's great. Um,
It's
where was I going to go with this? Well, tell me, do you have any works in progress or finished objects right at hand that you can show us?
Yeah, I have. Well, at the moment, I'm making a socks. Well, yeah, I have some, but well, this is one socks that I'm making. I already. How can I
I
show you?
love the. Okay, there you go. I love the
The
blue. The
yeah,
blue is wonderful. What are your
this.
favorite yarns to work with?
I love to use like Schassenmeyer, the German one, and I also use there's a Portuguese brand called Rosarios. It means how can I show you? Like
Okay. Okay.
Rosario for it means four ladies called Rosario.
Uh-huh.
If you translate it by word. And then I also use there's a really chunky one, huge ones.
Oh, that's
This I bought
big.
on Amazon, but it's an American brand. What's
Uh-huh.
his name? At the moment, I don't remember it, but you can find it on Amazon. It's
It's
good.
okay. I'm sure that a lot of my viewers know it.
Yeah. And then, well, this is one of the bennies that my kids took.
I love that color. Oh,
Yeah, it's a mix of different greens. Start from a little bit lighter and then goes to darker and then goes.
oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah,
Now, do you make your pom poms manually, or do you have a little gadget that helps you?
I have both. I do it manually, and if they are quite big, but at the same time, when they are much smaller, I use a small machine. But it's a different machine. I open and close it. I'm just trying to find it here. Well,
Okay.
yeah, but this is
This
other.
is
Yeah, that's. Could you show me that one?
this is one I
Yeah,
just picked up the
exactly.
other day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I use. Then. Yeah,
Yeah. This is two larger sizes. I also have two smaller sizes of the same brand. Um,
yeah.
I don't do pom poms a lot because I just don't do them well.
But you also can buy these ones. Look, I have this from now Messit's Portuguese brand for representing all these brands from Rowan to Red Heart, you know, Schassenmeyer, Reggie. I always like to use these brands. Anchor, it's for crochet small. And then you have these kinds of pom-poms, you know. It's really
Oh, the
sweet.
ones that are pre-made. I've
Yeah,
always wanted
yeah,
to try those. I haven't yet. I just make hats without pom-poms. That's what I do.
yeah. That's
This
amazing.
that's
It's
one that I
also
made
another.
today without a pom-pom.
Yeah, no worries. It's
Exactly.
it's
But
really look, making some shoes with crochet. See, this
I
is
have
from
never seen
UK.
anything like that.
Come on, I
Oh,
just
wow.
I even took the brand off, you know. My wife just told me, "What are you doing with the tennis shoes?" And I say, "I'm making a new one."
So you basically just made a piece to attach to the tongue of the shoe.
Yeah, and I glue it. All right.
Uh-huh. And
And
then
then
what are you going to use for laces? Are you going to use the same yarn to create
yeah,
something for the laces?
yeah, I'm going to use the same yarn so it goes all blue. All right. And then
I have
afterward,
never ever seen that sort of thing. I think it's brilliant.
oh, you have to buy the book from London K, made by London. She explains
Okay.
everything. And
Okay.
if you like crochet, if crochet it's your beach. Oh, look, my first scarf ever. And I,
Ah,
I never finish it, and I'm not going to finish it. It's really big. I don't know how
I
many
like
years.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really big.
You know, my ex made this huge, very long Doctor Who scarf,
Yeah,
um, with all the colors and the right proportions and everything. And he got so much attention when first when he would work on it on the train, but
yeah.
then when he would wear it himself, because everybody except for me, where'd you go? Oh, there I am. Okay.
No worries.
Um, Okay, let's see. I I was looking at your website a little while ago, and you have some really beautiful finished objects there that you have available for sale,
Yeah.
which I think is beautiful. None of them are crochet. I can excuse that.
Now there's one in crochet, and I will
Oh
show you.
yeah.
Wait a
Okay.
second. It's a bag.
Okay.
I will show you. Just a second. And it's
Hmm.
there, but I think. Oh, I have so many stuff here. If I start showing all my pieces, we don't have time for it, you know.
Oh,
So,
you can show me anything you want to show me.
all right. So the one I was talking to you, it's this one. It's okay. This is
Do you
leather.
know, I saw that on your website. It said it was knit, but I looked at it and I'm thinking, are you sure about that?
So it was. I was wrong. Sorry. On the description, I have to change it
I love
because it.
the leather flip top thingy.
Oh, this is amazing. This is really. I don't know which kind of if it's cotton, but a different type of cotton that you actually use
Mm-hmm.
because it looks like recycle, and at the same time it's stiff and it's really great and soft at the same time. So it's strange how I can explain you the texture of it, but it's
Mm-hmm.
really good work. And then you can even make your brand here. Like I didn't have more letters,
Mm-hmm.
so I put it just knitted by MM. And you already buy this like this, and
Okay.
I think it's from the brand Wool and the Gang. Actually, I got it. If I'm not
That
wrong,
that sort
Wool
of
and the Gang.
thing with the label with the thing stamped on it.
Yeah,
There are lots of places that on this side of the pond also where you can find that sort of thing. Is that bag lined?
So you can, this is like something that you actually can open it, and
Mm-hmm.
then you can use it inside, for example, a laptop, for example.
Oh, it's big enough for a laptop.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
yeah. Well, it's not so
Oh,
big. It's like probably a
uh,
13 screen,
maybe
or
more for a tablet than a laptop.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, not for a tablet, yeah.
but
But it's really awesome how to put inside the leather and work crochet at the same time. So it's a different technique that I used, and I really liked it. It was really amazing how to do it. So, but my specialty, it's like Norwegian designs,
mm-hmm.
brand where
Yeah, I
you,
saw a lot of beautiful things
yeah,
like that on your website, and I think that
yeah.
they're
This is, it's from the Marius Gensen, and then I decided to make a little bit different.
mhm.
So uh, it's really interesting. If you like this Norwegian type, but it in a very more, um, how do you say, um, innovative. This is another one.
I like that. I
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
and but these are, if you see, these are a little bit smaller than they used to do. So, and at the end, just use it a little blue, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
these ones that I love to use. This is really, really, really
Oh, yeah.
this
That's nice.
it's, if you use it for 5 minutes, it's really, really hot, and this wool comes, it's 100% natural wool, and it comes from uh, I think it's Peru. Yeah, Peru, and it's like 2 minutes inside this, and it's really hot. So it's for
But then
Canadian
you
people.
said you're going skiing in Switzerland, so
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I can imagine by the seaside in Portugal, it would not be all that useful.
No, but we even have snow, but it's much more for the interior. But it's not like, Switzerland. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So here are my first socks. They are really big. Well, I have to go back.
I think that's cute. You
Yeah,
could use that for a Christmas stocking.
yeah, yeah. I decided to make it to my wife, but it's still here.
I
And see,
like that. You should
yeah,
frame it and hang it on the wall.
yeah, and I have this one. This is all crochet. It's like a
Uh-huh.
Moroccan bag.
Oh
One of
yeah.
those
I've
bags.
made bags like that before too.
So
Well, that
you
reminds me, do you also do you do your own designs? Do you do patterns?
Yeah, I try to mix up, things that I actually learn as the typical ones, traditional ones, and then I decided to make a little bit different. For example, like this one. This is like small for me, but this is for my my
I like that. I think
my
it's
kid.
cute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's for a small kid. It's not for me.
Yeah, for a
This,
boy or a girl, that would be fun.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it
actually, we're I can't believe we've been talking for this long, and it has been just lovely. But we have to close pretty soon. So,
yeah.
what would you like to be your overriding message for the people who watch my channel, few as they are?
Wow, yeah. Well, just come and follow David. You have to get inside if you want to know what's happening on this part of the world, like what we are doing inside the yarn world and Ravelry and all these creative and things that happening. You have to go along with David. He's making a wonderful, wonderful job in trying to spread all this message that all we artists are making, and just go ahead, just subscribe and listen to him, and well, then sky is the
That's
limit.
really not the answer I expected, but I'm pretty grateful for that. How can people find you online?
Oh, all right. You just go along with, like, just read here, knitted by Macho Man. All right. or knitting, Macho Men, then you'll find me on Instagram, Facebook. Send me a message, and then I'll, as soon as I can, I will send you a message back. And I'm really happy to give all the kind of information you'd like about this yarn world. It's an amazing.
Great.
All right.
And if you will email me some links for some of the things you were talking about, the yarn companies, that sort of thing, I will include them in the description for this video. I will, of course, include all of your information in the description, particularly your website and your Instagram. I want people to see your beautiful work. And I want people to enjoy this lovely conversation that we've had.
Yeah.
So much as I hate to do this, I do have to call it quits, because there are other things to do today, aren't there? And it's rather late there, isn't it?
Yeah. Here it's
Go
almost
ahead.
yeah, 10:30 here.
Oh yeah. You
Yeah.
sort of confused me with your railroad time before. I have been
Sorry.
I've been messed up with that in past, when I have
Yeah.
visited Europe, and I've missed performances because I thought I understood the railroad time, but I was just making stupid assumptions. But anyway, at least we got to connect in this way, and it has been a total joy speaking with you. I hope we will continue to exchange ideas and all of that stuff.
Okay, David.
So, and thank you everybody for joining us. And I'm going to click end now.